Hello and welcome to another episode of An Echo of Glory. I'm Jake Robson, and yes, the king may well be dead, but we are very much alive here at An Echo of Glory. And after Friday's emergency extravaganza, the dust has settled a tad, but we continue. And I'm delighted to say I'm joined by Adam Nathan.
How are you?
Very good. How are you?
I'm very happy to be here and get to talk about Spurs again.
Yes. And James Robbins.
Hello.
Back from the dead.
Yeah. I mean, the last pod I was on, I was not in the best shape straight after the final. So, yeah, feeling much better today.
The keener-eyed amongst you may notice some headgear going on in the Echo of Glory studio right now between the three of us. I mean, look at this. A round of applause.
Magnificent.
These weren't forced upon us. These have been offered and requested by the three of us. New caps, new merchandise, and James is going to model his first because he wanted the bucket hat.
And it fits my massive head, which is always a huge issue with bucket hats.
Fantastic. We've got An Echo of Glory legacy logos. You went for the
trucker, which will be available in navy. I'm reliably informed from behind the glass at some point. So it's great.
And I've gone for, I don't know, what do you call one of these? It's not a trucker, what is it? Just a baseball cap.
Baseball
cap. But backwards, blue.
Ooh, fitted.
It's nice elastic for my big head. It's fantastic.
Premium.
You can get them at anechoofglory.com.
This is like a QVC episode, isn't it?
I will say I bought the Europa League bucket hat, for the Bilbao bucket hat, and this is remarkably better quality.
These hats are
Spurs one feels
fantastic.
like paper. I love it, but it's terrible. This is far better.
Yeah. Get it to anechoofglory.com. And also, there's other things like, I don't know, Gary's pint glasses, Gary's key rings, beer openers. Good weekend, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah? You working?
I had a couple of events that I was catering, thinking about
What
managerial.
food did you do?
Bit of everything.
Yeah?
A couple of buffets, a few canapes, bit of desserts. Invite lost in the post for you?
No, I just like hearing about the food.
Oh,
What was the highlight of the menu, your menus over the weekend?
We did some good shawarma stuff this weekend.
Lovely.
I think that went down
That
very
sounds
well.
nice.
Went down a
Next
treat.
time, feel free to, in any leftovers.
Oh, 100% in my first port of call, don't worry.
And James, what were you up to?
Yeah, not too much. Just a quiet one with my girlfriend and my dog, which was nice. Went on a long 3-hour walk to tire the little guy out, and then got home and he still wanted to play, which is a nightmare. But
That is the worst.
lovely weekend. Yeah.
Why don't they
he's
just go to sleep now, dog?
He slept
please?
for like 2 hours or 3 hours, and then he was just like, "Yeah, I want to play now." I'm like, bro, we just took like ages.
We just had
How
you
are
out.
not tired.
So come on then, Adam, where were you when you found out?
I was driving back from a fishing trip, of all things, with my dad, and we were in Hampshire, so it was a couple of hours each way. So you're talking about bits and bobs, and Tottenham obviously came up, and what do you think's going to happen? That was on the way down, and then on the way back, checking my phone and saw. You could feel the snowball was gradually increasing as the day went on, couldn't you? And then I think at 5 o'clock or so, the news dropped, and that was it.
And here we are. And what about you?
Yeah, I think I was just out and about on a train, and it was rumbling all day. There were people like, "Oh, it's going to be 2 o'clock. Oh, it's going to be 3 o'clock." There was ITK and just people guessing, and you never know what's real. And everyone's kind of waiting. And then, we knew it was coming. It finally came. And yeah, it was an odd one. It felt just like ticking off the box. Kind of processed it a while ago before the actual announcement. However, Angie's little piece that was released by Base, his agents, that hit me a little bit.
Did that get
was nice.
you?
Yeah, I didn't cry. Like, the only manager I've cried for is Pochettino. Hours later, 3 a.m., Jesus Perez did an Instagram post, bawled my eyes out. This one just felt like, here we go again. Bit matter of fact, really.
Adam, you and I were basically the only two people that I know that thought he and there were plenty of on Twitter as well, but that thought maybe based on what the Europa League final that he deserved. Not necessarily that he should get it, but that he deserved it. And there's a slight difference there. So how did you feel?
Do you know what? I'm not even sure that I felt that, but what I did know is that my brain was completely scrambled.
Right.
And whereas I was once of the...
Have I misquoted you?
No, I wouldn't say misquoted. I don't think it's an unreasonable
I haven't
reflection.
libelled you?
No, not yet. We'll see how the show goes, and we can always go back to that. But I felt that the discussion was worth having. If not, he deserves to stay. And I think I've spoken to quite a lot of people in the weeks since the final, And in my mind, everyone I'd spoken to made it pretty clear that this was going to happen. He was going to lose his job. So I don't really think I was ever suspending reality too much and thinking, well, maybe he'll stay. But when I did see the announcement, I did have like that sort of, damn. But it's one of those I've been happy to listen to both sides of the argument and hear and engage with. As long as you're not sort of on one end of the spectrum whereby the club is now dead, he's the most important person in the club's history, or on the other end of the spectrum whereby anyone could have managed this, irrespective, regardless, clown, idiot, fool, I'm happy to listen and engage with anyone in between those. And I've still not made my mind up. And I don't actually think I'll know what I really think until about a year's time down the line, when we can say, obviously you don't know what Ange would have done, but was it worth not seeing, is where I'm at right now.
Yes, I think I'm with you there. Although I feel completely different. I feel differently about it today than I did on Friday afternoon, because I say time is a great healer. You know what got me? And I think I've been on since the parade, although I can't remember. I think I have. It was that third year is going to be better than the second. That's what made me think, oh no, he definitely now, because now he said that, we've got to see what happens in the third year. But obviously, you know,
He was killed off.
Huh?
Killed off in the off-season.
Exactly. And he did say sometimes they kill them off before the third season.
The cynic in me with that. Do you think
he knew what he was doing?
I think
this
so.
makes my position. Yeah, maybe.
He's been a master of the one-liner and putting himself positionally with what he said, on certain pedestals.
Well, I'm the fool then. I'm the sucker.
I don't think you're a fool, but
No,
I think it was quite well done from him at a time where he probably knew what the situation was going to be.
Yeah, I completely agree.
I think now
I
know
thought
he
it was
must,
really clever. I think he knew his job. I don't think he knew he was getting sacked. I think he knew that there was a possibility. But he could talk you into anything.
Absolutely.
He, in another world, he's a politician and he's a world dictator, because he can convince you into anything. These players, a lot of the players love him and a lot of the fans love him. I think, similarly to yourself, but more leaning on he should go. Mm-hmm. For me, the Europa League was amazing. Best day of my life. I really like Ange. I think in terms of managers we've had, there's not been a manager that defends the club as much, that I feel kind of almost like a kinship to in a way, in terms of like beliefs and just, the way he speaks. But I couldn't look past the league form. Worst in Premier League history, 22 losses, 2 seasons of a squad's worth of injuries. And in terms of his style, I don't want to say style because there's nothing wrong with an attacking style of play, but his implementation of that style of football was just absolutely not good enough. There were no signs that it was improving. If anything, there were signs that it was getting worse. He stopped inverting the fullbacks, which was such a hallmark of his play. There were huge gaps all over the place. I always thought our players were miles apart from each other. Our press was erratic. We had John McKenzie on before, and he spoke about how, his press is really, really basic and just relies on intensity. He talked about even chance creation when it doesn't come from a high turnover. We weren't very good at it. And the Europa League final brought me back. I was like, oh my God, I would have, even now, I'd be like, wholeheartedly, I'd be like, if he stayed, absolutely fine. I completely get that perspective. That's fine. I almost think maybe he did deserve a few months, but I do think looking back at the season, looking at his football, there were no signs of improvement, and we've managed to avoid him Ramosing it, Ten Haging it. Di Matteo didn't stay as Chelsea manager for very long, did he? After a Champions League. I just think it's the right decision, even if it does still hurt.
Yeah, the Ten Hag is the obvious one. As usual, we've got plenty of people already in the comments, some of our members as well, which we have told you about before. You can go to anechoofglory.com and become a member. You can also do it on the YouTube page, but you've got to be on a laptop. Craig Silver, our number 1 member. Like nice caps, lads. Did you see Bryn and Jason on the fishing trip? I don't know what that means. Do you know what that means?
Gavin and Stacey.
Oh, right. Yes. Very good. Adam Harris, announce Frank. Well, we will come on to that.
I don't think it's our position to announce Frank.
No, I was about to say, that won't be us doing that, but we will come and talk to him. Who else? Adam Harris. Spurs always do a Friday. Yes, they do like a Friday. And Georgie Pena. There's a bit of a conjecture as to how we pronounce your name. I just feel this is the change for change's sake. Hopefully we'll thrive next season, but I think we already had the right manager in place. Yes, well, we will find that out, won't we? Within Well, I tell you what, the fans will certainly make that decision after the first couple of games. We lose our first couple of games, there's going to be big trouble. Will's mentioned something about Alan Pardew, but so I'm not going to read the rest of that out because I don't know what he's on about. Wanted to get your guys, both of you, thoughts as we're a few days on now, and I said the dust has settled a bit because we're not going to talk about Ange the whole time, but just while we're here, and it probably wasn't right for them to do it on Friday, what was your favourite Ange memory moment? What's the thing you remember most about Ange in the 2 years? Was it maybe a specific game, a goal, a press conference, post-match interview?
Outside of the obvious that Bilbao will be a day that will be on, the pantheon of Tottenham days forever. When we beat Liverpool 2-1 against 9 men, it was only 9 men, whatever, but we went and did it in the 90 whatever minute, and the atmosphere in the ground was electric. And ultimately, when you think about why you do this, it's just to get some nice moments with your mates, right? And hopefully Tottenham win at the same time. And that was such an amazing moment with everyone there. Like the South Stand was going bananas with the songs at the end. And it just felt like our
families on the pitch.
It was. And after 4 or 5 years of proper turgid stuff, it felt like a corner had been turned.
He was a tonic, I think.
Yeah.
Ange was an absolute tonic. Someone asked me if we should have got, maybe we should have got Frank when we got Ange. And I was like, I think we needed Ange. We needed someone like him to really break the cycle of those evil managers.
Yeah.
Evil might not be the right word, but you know what I mean? So yeah, I think I agree with you. Those moments that he gave were just
And at that point, you were hanging on his every word. Like you were waiting for those 10:30 embargoed press conferences to come out. Like everything you wanted to listen to was great. And even, I still think you could look at his role, his tenure as an unmitigated success in the sense that the squad has been turned around. We have managed to make in the Champions League. We've given young players a lot more games, and we've managed to get the ultimate, I guess, club goal of getting in the Champions League. So it's nice in a way that whatever you think of him, and even if you do think it's the right thing for him to go, probably it was, at least you can cling on to something and say, well, there was a value for the 2 years. We haven't just wasted 2 years, like the Mourinho years were wasted. The Conte years ultimately ended pretty wasted. This feels like, as a club, progress has been made to hopefully take you to the next step.
James, I'll come to you in 1 sec. I just wanted to read out Craig. Is this arguably the most important window in our history, first being 2019? Craig, we will come on to that at the end of the show, so don't you worry. And Adam Flanagan, where can you see Ange ending up next? And I'm going to ask the guys that as well. But your favourite, do you have one?
Obviously, Bilbao is the one. I don't think anyone else would say anything different. I'm not going to pick any games. There's a lot of games where I think we played really well. I think when we beat City earlier in the season, all the wins against United, the Liverpool win, especially with when Bogle scored and probably should have been sent off. That just added to it. But Ange's press conferences, specifically the ones where he talked about, I think, echoed how the fans felt, which he was very good at. And I can't remember the specific quotes, but it was the one where he defended the club and was like, he felt like there was a narrative and an agenda almost against the club in how it's spoken about, whether that was in the media, whether that was other fans, and how to win a trophy would silence that. I just think they never felt that from another manager that's truly defended us. And after Conte and Jose belittled us all the time, as I said, it was a tonic. It just was what we needed as a fan base. And that's why I can't really put anyone down for loving this guy and maybe wanting him still to be there, because it's things like that really connect you, I think, as a fan to the club. And seeing someone is fighting for you in the position where they should be fighting for you. It should be a privilege to be a Tottenham Hotspur manager. It shouldn't be a privilege for us to have the coach. You know what I mean? So, yeah, for me, it's those kind of presses, I think, and interviews where he just stuck up for us.
And it is cheesy as well, but that one, the Chelsea one, for me, was the one after we lost to Chelsea.
Who we are, mate.
It's who we are, mate. I've never watched a post-match interview of a manager doing my from my team, and just seeing like, wow, I cannot believe I'm hearing this. What a guy. We've just lost, and I love the guy. I love the team and the way we played. And also, then it was before we knew what we know now. I mean, in that at the end of that Chelsea game, obviously it's literally been all downhill since. But that was like the top of the top of the wave, the Ange wave, really. So yeah, that one for me.
What world would it be if Eric Dyer's goal wasn't offside?
Well, exactly. We've got a very special guest coming on in a couple of minutes' time, which I'm going to tell you about very shortly. I'll read some more. Just last thing on Ange then, because we're gonna wrap this up before our guest. I can't remember who it was that said it. Was it Craig or someone said, where do we see him ending up next? Do we see him taking a Premier League job? Do we see him being offered a Premier League job? Do we see him taking one like right away? I know Leeds has been mentioned.
I think Leeds is a funny one, right? Because I've said for a while I think he would absolutely smash the Bundesliga. Because I think another alternative to
he'd do well to beat Bayern over a season.
That's a different story, isn't it? That's like the PSG as well in France. I don't think he's going to get a Bayern or a PSG.
I could see him winning the French Cup though with a Lyon or. I
just think the Bundesliga, with how he wants to press and his overall kind of game plan, would really work. And Ange takes coaches from where he goes and builds new coaching teams, likes to work with other people. Another alternative I quite liked from some people, that was if Ange was to stay, get a real tactics nerd in as his number two, like a lot of clubs do have. In Germany...
So not Mile Jedinak then?
No, maybe not Mile Jedinak. But in Germany, he would be surrounded by these gegenpressing geniuses. And I just wonder if he went to like a Leipzig, which Leeds are part owned by the Red Bull Group, I just think he could do really well in the Bundesliga. And that's probably where I'd go to next. I'll be looking at if I was Ange, just considering style of play.
I'm not sure necessarily club, but from a personality standpoint, I think he'd benefit from being in one club city type things where you can really ignite and get the whole community behind you. Obviously, London is difficult because it's so disparate and there are so many clubs that, 3 people in the street support 3 different teams. But I think the idea of a Leeds, or I know people talk about Ajax, and I think why it works so well at Celtic, albeit that's 50-50, is that ability to build a cult following and have everyone following you and build such a community feel.
I think Ajax is a good shout.
I think really if we hadn't gone to shit, he almost was doing that at Tottenham. He was building the them against us, I felt. But the problem is he wasn't backing it up with how we were actually playing.
I do believe he's brought the club forward in his own ways. I think the development of young players that we've got in... Hoya Pena mentioned the homegrown. I think we're going to struggle with that for a little while. The club trained more for Europe. I do remember Ange, and I think it must have been an internal thing with Langer and the club deciding this, that we are just going to naturally struggle with that for a while until I think Gray and Burval can become UEFA club trained technically 3 years before 21. They both joined at 18. And we're just going to wait for that. So we've actually got clearly starting footballers in those positions. But what I do think is, ironically, with his injuries, regardless, he's brought these players on massively. We've seen Moore get some minutes, and hopefully he'll get more next season or a loan. And hopefully there's been a mentality shift within this club. And just getting that trophy off the back means that no one can beat you down with it. And that ultimately does bring us forward, regardless of the 17th position. And now, he always said, and I saw a quote being kind of misrepresented online about Ange saying, I want to build this club for 4 or 5 years plus. That wasn't about him staying in the position for that time. He's never done that. He's been a 2-3 year kind of manager max. He wants to build it beyond him. That's his remit. That's how he works. And I do think, regardless of our position in the league, he has succeeded. I mean, only time will tell if that's the truth. But it feels like it has. No,
he did say at different points when we signed Gray, Bergvall, Odeberg, he said whoever is here in the next 4 or 5, he was very clear to say it wouldn't be him, but whoever's here in the next 4 or 5 years will reap the benefits of those signings. Right, I'm delighted to say that the time has now come. Just by way of introduction, you may have seen, certainly in the British press, there was a Tottenham fan last week in Greece who met Ange while they were both on holiday. And as ever, we do bring you the best of the best here on An Echo of Glory. And I'm delighted to say we're joined by that Tottenham fan, Jez Conrad. Jez, thank you so much for coming on An Echo of Glory. As I said, you met Ange last week. I think The Athletic it was that picked it up, and certainly a couple of the other publications did. Tell us Just tell us the story. What happened?
First of all, thanks so much for having me on. Um, it's been very illuminating listening to what you guys have had to say about Spurs. At a very interesting juncture in our history. Um, the story with Ange, it blew my mind. We went to Greece on holiday for half term. We stayed a couple of nights in Athens. We went south of Athens. I don't know what your Greek geography is like, but about an hour outside of Athens, down by Poseidon's temple, and staying in a hotel. First dinner that we had in the hotel, walked in, saw someone that I recognised a little bit. There was a woman sitting at a table with some kids. Looks a bit like my old neighbour, and I was like, no, she's too old to be my old neighbour, especially with young kids. And then didn't think too much of it, and then went up to go and get my food from the buffet. And an Ange walked past me, and it just suddenly struck me. I was like, oh my god, I'm on holiday with Ange and his family.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I pretty much almost dropped my plate of food. I mean, it was what a time to bump into Ange at any time. I think would have been pretty exciting. But 5-6 days after the Europa League final, blew my mind. Absolutely blew my mind.
And then, as from what I've read and from what I understand, obviously you were staying there for a few days. You then got a couple of more than a couple of mates to sign to give their signing to a letter that you gave to Ange. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I didn't want to go in too hard, too strong, too early. I sort of figured out these. I mean, he was on TV and walking around the pitch at White Hart Lane literally 24 hours previously to that. So I was like, he's probably here for the week. Let's play the long game. Obviously, updating pretty much everybody that I knew that supported Spurs about the situation I found myself in, and gradually sort of built up to trying to make an initial connection. Lots of kind of walking past each other in and around the hotel. Kind of, I mean, it must have been pretty obvious I was a Spurs fan. I was smiling like an idiot every time I caught his eye, but also wanted to be quite respectful of the fact that he was, he's had a pretty hard last few months. He probably wants to de-stress. He's with his family, so didn't want to go up and sort of fan out in front of his family. So waited till I had an opportunity when he was away from his family. Went over to him, had a very quick chat just to say an enormous thank you for bringing some glory and some pride back to our club. And that was a couple of days after I first realised we were staying in the same hotel. And then, yeah, as you mentioned with the letter, very much egged on by all of my Spurs supporting mates, all of the multitude of WhatsApp groups that I'm on, that I was giving pretty much minute by minute updates about every interaction. He sat on the pool on the sun lounger next to me. Oh my god, we're eating in the same restaurant again. My wife was utterly fed up with me by the end of this holiday. I think my kids just enjoyed seeing me in this sort of near trance-like state, that I was so excited. But then, yeah, getting towards the end of the week, and I didn't want to have another interaction with him where I sort of blurted out something that wasn't perfectly formed. I wanted to make sure that I was able to convey exactly how I felt, how a lot of my friends who support Spurs feel, and the appreciation that we have. So I decided to write the letter and get it sent to him via room service with a nice bottle of wine.
Yes, what a guy.
I didn't want to turn up at his doorstep and hand deliver it, so I decided room service was probably the less psycho fan way of doing it. So sent him a letter on Friday, sort of early evening, and then at breakfast the next day, just was sort of sat there facing the entrance, just hoping that he would walk in, and that he hadn't sort of taken an early flight out on Saturday morning, or he hadn't called a security guard because he was worried that there was a stalker. He came in, he walked past. I was drinking my coffee at the time, sort of raised my coffee to him and g'day mate. And then he sort of sat his kids down, went up to the buffet again, and I was like, right, this is my chance. walked over to him and sort of said, thanks so much again, Ange. I'm actually leaving today, but I just wanted to, shake by the hand and grab that photo that you mentioned the other day. But also, I hope you like the wine. And he's like, oh, mate, that I'm not going to do that. Mate, thank you so much. The wine was delicious. Really, really kind of you to do that. But to be honest, mate, it was the letter that meant so much more to me.
Yeah.
Which was just like, oh my God, don't cry, Jez, don't cry. And then we took a quick photo and went our separate ways. And I sat back down at my table. I had my back to where he was sitting, and my daughter, who was facing me, and I was sort of recounting to my wife and children exactly the interaction that I'd had with Ange. And then my daughter's face, like her jaw just sort of dropped. And I was like, oh no, maybe he's like overheard me talking about, our interaction. Maybe he's really upset. Maybe he's going to come over and, have a go at me. And he sort of came over, he tapped me on the shoulder. And he's like, oh, Jez, mate, I was hoping I'm sorry, I'm doing the accent again.
Not too bad.
I was hoping that I was going to see you again at breakfast. I've got something for you.
Wow.
And then he pulled out the shirt that's just up there.
Brilliant.
And he signed it to Jez, and he autographed it, and then wrote Coys underneath. And I didn't know what to do. I mean, again, sort of trying to contain my emotions was tricky, but amazing moment. Such a nice guy, super humble, really approachable. Just really, can't say enough about him. What a guy.
I know you had a question.
Yeah. I just want to ask, I mean, after such an amazing interaction, I mean, how are you feeling now? I mean, it must be a bit of a come down after something like that.
It is. I mean, it's been such a complicated season for so many reasons. I mean, obviously, he's given me my happiest Spurs memory. That's for sure. And I think it's probably the right decision. I mean, it is really, in the aftermath of all the excitement of Bilbao, it's a bit of a buzzkill. But if you look at the long-term project, or you look at the long-term, what's best for the club, it's a good opportunity for him to kind of leave head held high. Don't in any way tarnish the amazing legend-like reputation that you've just built.
Yeah.
The league form has obviously been super frustrating and just not great. Could it have turned around? I don't know. Could this have been the springboard to really kind of to reset? And I don't know. But yeah, just really sad for him as a person, to be honest. I mean, he as the letter says, he sort of fought and stuck up for our club in a way that Conte definitely didn't. Mourinho definitely didn't. So many of our managers have never really kind of picked that line of argument with the media in a way that Ange did. And I think, I mean, I'm sure you guys agree. I feel as Spurs just get a disproportionate amount of negativity from all corners of the media, and also all corners of football fandom. I mean, we seem to be sort of the club that everybody loves to hate. And he would call it out, and he would not just accept that. And he did his absolute best to try and change the perception of our club, or to fight for the reputation of our club. And that is one of the multitude of things that I'm super thankful for and super appreciative for. And all of the people that signed that letter underneath, as are they, and as I'm sure most Spurs fans are.
I was going to say, Jez, I saw the list of names and wondered if you were on like an all-time lads holiday and drew the short straw, or had the nicest handwriting, so you were the one that was tasked with writing the letter. But, I say for me that the final, Ange, and I'll always be grateful for giving me that moment with my dad and my mates. And clearly you've had a similar sort of thing. I mean, did you watch the final with that group of people, or who were you with? Because I think everyone's got their story to tell about such a momentous day, and Ange is inextricably linked with that.
Yeah. So my brother, he's actually he lives in LA. He was over for he came back for the final, and we watched it together. There was lots of offers for exciting places to go and watch it, but I think the way that I deal with my Spurs trauma is sort of very much in isolation in my sitting room with only my nearest and dearest near me to sort of to see me in various states. So it's just me and my brother. My eldest daughter when she realised the game was sort of coming to a conclusion, she took a very entertaining video of the two of us as the final seconds ticked by.
Release the tapes.
And yeah, well, it's not me in my finest. But it was just, it was incredible. I mean, just the relief. It's been such a long time since I've had that feeling, and it was incredible.
Jez, this is honestly the most amazing story. One of our members, Craig, has put in the comments, "Why am I getting emotional?" And to be honest, when you were telling that story, I had goosebumps. And I have to say, without wishing to what's the word, a brag or whatever. I work in sport, and I'm around. I interview players and stuff like that. I don't know what I would do if I was on holiday with Ange, like 2 weeks after, because I can walk past whoever in the corridor and it's just fine because you're at work. But
you have to behave a certain way as
well. You do, and also, but I'd be gutted if I hadn't done what you'd done, Jez, because ultimately you don't want to bother him, but at the same time you'll have that moment forever, and it is absolutely amazing. So I'm so glad you come on and recount it for us. And yeah, as I said, you've got that fantastic memory and that lovely shirt in the background. So yeah, thanks very much.
And that lovely shirt. That's great. Thank you so much, guys. Yeah, it's a very special moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's added very much to the whole excitement around the final. So yeah, and thank you for having me on.
Lovely stuff. We'll speak to you soon. Cheers, Jez.
Thanks a lot.
That's on. Thanks so much, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I mean, yeah, wow. I want to read some of the comments. Craig, why am I getting emotional? Somebody else said they couldn't believe he wasn't staying somewhere private. Well, exactly. It makes you realise that, what a normal kind of bloke is. And it also makes you forget that he's got the Australian accent, but he's fully Greek. He wasn't just somewhere like in Mykonos. He was actually somewhere sort of a bit more remote.
It's great that as it goes on, like I was on holiday with Ange, and you can just keep that. I went on holiday with Ange. Yeah, we booked the trip together. You can you can continue the story as the years go on. Yeah, that you can make the truth more and more blurry as you go, as opposed to bumped into Ange on holiday, which is where it really started. It was great.
It just fantastic. Gutted it didn't work out. It's all those emotional feelings. Gutted. It just didn't happen.
Absolutely. And as I said in the WhatsApp group, we're now going to lay Ange to rest now, as far as Spurs fans are concerned, and as we are concerned on this podcast. And I'm going to leave the final word on Ange to P_Hutch in the comments. Let's not forget Ange has walked away with 6 to 7 million. Poor chap.
Yeah, fair play.
Well, we can only guess how much he's walked away with. So yes, he's gone. He's done. Fantastic way to end Ange. What's next? Obviously, everyone's saying Thomas Frank. Lots of rumours. Natalie Sawyer was on TalkSport saying that she's very in at Brentford, saying that from what she's heard, Frank has either asked to leave or said he wants to talk to Tottenham, etc. If it is Frank, would we be happy with that? Starting with you, Adam?
Look, every manager is a risk to some point, and you would have thought at the time that Conte and Mourinho would be great choices, natural born winners, and this club needs to win. So what a great, you put that with that, and you're going to end with the results that you want. But I feel I've been scarred too many times by managers to think that yes, good appointment, bad appointment. And I think the best thing to do is to watch it play out. I mean, the principles, what he's done at Brentford, the way in which the club clearly wants to act, I suppose, for better and for worse, the fit seems right. It doesn't seem like he's a bad bloke, which is probably one of my baseline principles for wanting a manager now, that he's not detestable.
I think he's a really good personality follow-up.
Seems like it. So, yeah, I mean, if you're looking at, a top trumps card, you'd probably say Thomas Frank's a good fit for the job. Just have to hope that it plays out that way.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think Frank is a really good appointment. If we go back in the WhatsApp chat or some earlier pods, I feel very vindicated in being anti-Iraola and pro-Frank for a while on this podcast. I just think he has proven himself at Brentford. He'll get some stick for being maybe he's a pragmatic coach and this, that and the other. I don't necessarily agree with that.
I don't.
I think he's an adaptable coach. He played attacking football in the Championship, and I think Brentford have progressively been getting better as they've been in the Premier League. In terms of our squad fit, in terms his 4-2-3-1 that he mostly plays, and he'll sometimes use a 3 at the back when it.
Well, that's the thing when people say he's very rigid and very doesn't adapt. He literally has 2 formations. One that he uses slightly less, but he literally has 2 that he uses.
Earlier in his career, his main formation was 4-3-3 when he was at Brøndby. He will change depending on the players available. And I think in terms of our
Or
squad
the Oppo
setup,
sometimes as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I think he's got a squad that kind of fits really nicely. You can see Maddison in the 10. He wanted Brennan Johnson when we signed him. They were trying to sign him. He wanted Archie Gray. So that's kind of some players that we know he'd have liked, accepted, and probably have had some plans for. I'm pretty happy with it. I don't remember the names. A couple of people in the chat and I've seen the kind of sentiment online that it's not good enough. What are we doing? You know, why are we not aiming higher?
I don't understand what that means in this case.
I mean, I asked those people, what do you want? Because we've just had Ange, who came from Celtic, but not done it in a top league, and he's won us a trophy. We had Conte and Jose before that, who were the best managers ever, doing us a favour, and that ended terribly. They were horrendous. Not just in terms of where we finished, because ultimately in terms of league, we were better. But just the feeling around the club was disgusting. And then before that was Pochettino, who's probably our best Premier League manager that we've had.
Yeah, definitely.
And he came from Southampton.
Yeah.
And he'd been at Southampton a year. Before that, Espanyol, very fresh in his managerial career, and took us to a Champions League final. I just don't think... I don't know how we've become so entitled to turn our nose up.
But even Redknapp, we were the biggest club he managed, and he'd come from Portsmouth before that. I think there's a lot to be said for having managers who have still something to prove, because then they want to take you places. Is it an appointment that excites you? And what do you say to those who say what James is saying? Couldn't we aim higher? What does that even mean?
I don't think that we're in an era of the superstar manager at the minute anyway, really. I feel like we've sort of gone through that period where, managers are being showcased as the absolute superstars of the sport. We're not really in the era of the Klopps and the Mourinhos to a point where we...
Arteta hadn't managed when he came to Arsenal.
The people that do appear to be coming out are the guys that slightly less heralded. So that gives me hope. I think...
Your De Zerbis, these kind of people.
Yeah, I mean, he's 51, so he's probably not on the... Poch was 41, I think, when he took the Spurs job. So career trajectory-wise, probably slightly different. Pochettino on a steady ascendancy, whereas Frank was
that 41 was a very young manager, especially at the time.
I guess the positives of Frank, too, that I can think of is that he has no need to leave Brentford right now.
No.
He's very well settled, doing a very good job in a place where I'm sure he's very happy to be. So the fact that he wants to join would give me hope that conditions will be in place. I know we've said this for loads of managers, but
I agree. I think
this is someone
point.
that really does not need to take
Correct.
this job, but wants it. So that's good. And I've just been thinking whilst we're talking, if you think of the players that Brentford have sold, he has managed to showcase and then end up selling for their maximum value Watkins, Tony, and Mbeumo. Like, he's put these players in positions to really thrive at their peak. And
even Ben Rama, who came up with
Ben Rama as well. You're right. I'm
yeah.
just thinking, like, off the top of my head, if he's able to showcase,
Flecken's gone now for good money.
Yeah,
Good player,
if he's able to bring out the best in a star player and showcase them, well, that's only going to be good for Spurs. So I have to hope that because I don't really think Ange did that particularly well. I think it was more system-based achievement than, who's been Spurs' player of the season that you could really think of this year.
Well, I was about to
Both
say he'll be good for Archie Gray, Lucas Burvell, Wilson Odobert, the way he has with someone like Mikkel Damsgaard, who was fantastic this season and who had a really slow start. He's really brought them through.
Yeah, so my hope is that if he's able to showcase the individual as well as the collective, then that can only be good for Spurs. I'm not going to say that I'm thrilled or buzzing about it, because I don't think it's that sort of appointment, but I'm not really sure we're in a position where we need that sort of thing. And my brain is also a bit fried because I don't know what success is anymore. I don't... It's been such a bizarre season that I don't know what I would say is a successful season. Someone in our chat, I think, said, or another chat said, would you take sixth and a quarterfinal of the Champions League? I've got no idea.
I mean, I probably would.
I probably
League
would.
So strong.
Now that
first season, new coach.
Yeah, but now that we are literally drowning in trophies, it feels almost weird to say that's a success because we've kind of had that Band-Aid ripped off of the whole trophy thing. So I don't know whether that's a good thing or not. Probably is.
I've always been a massive fan of his. I think anyone that kept Brentford up, not just kept them up, has done really well with them for 4 seasons. They score lots of goals. They play good football, and as you said, they've had some good players that have been and gone. And he's managed to keep the wheels turning over with those big sales. I've also interviewed him loads at press conferences. He is definitely what you would call a good guy. I mean, you can't ever, having been to someone like Conte's press conferences, you can be impressed by the guy, but you don't look at him and go, oh, I really like him.
Yeah.
Thomas Frank is he's like, if you like Dange, you're going to like Thomas Frank. He's a real straight shooter. He has his no dickheads policy. It's all about the collective and the team, and he's very thoughtful and measured. My two reservations about him is one, which you slightly offset. He's only ever managed at Brentford. So what does it mean? He was obviously very, it was all encompassing, that role, and he was very sort of tight, embedded there. How's he going to go somewhere else? But maybe the fact that he wants to go somewhere else suggests that he'll be happy. If he's happy to come to Tottenham, he feels that the environment is right for him to succeed there as he has at Brentford. So you might have allayed my fear on that one. The other thing is, how's he going to tackle playing in Europe and having the Premier League, because that's something he's never done before.
He has played 46 game seasons though.
True.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of which is the 8 games plus 38.
That's true.
So he has managed, probably more than Ange, in fairness, the need to balance your squad midweek and weekend, which that is it's not the same level, but it's the same principle, I would think, of how you need to rotate through your squad.
And the other thing is there anything wrong if you're going to use set pieces to your advantage? We've seen how Arsenal have done it. I know people complain about it. You wouldn't say that he's a long ball merchant by any stretch. He's still high intensity, high press, lots of running. You've got to work hard.
So statistically, I think they were second for the most long balls.
Right.
But they were also way up there for deep possession, which means build-up game with centre backs.
I bet their pressing numbers are high as well.
And I think we've got so stuck in this world of extremes where attacking football, defensive football.
Yeah. How many assists did Edison?
somewhere-
Edison got 3 or 4 assists this season from long balls.
It can be in between, and I think we've seen in the Premier League how important variety is.
Absolutely.
We've seen a real shift in football in the last year, where physicality has become more important. A variety between short build-up and long build-up has become really important. You can't just be wedded to one, which is something we have been for 2 years with Andrew's short build-up. We won the Europa League by playing long ball, horrendous football. Now, we don't want that all the time.
It's good, though.
But, worth it. But, he has variety to his game. I'm pretty excited by the appointment. He does start slow. His first, I think, 8 games, both at Bromby and Brentford, were without a win.
Oh, here we go.
That's pretty rough. He can't do that here.
His first Premier League game was good, though.
Remind me.
Beat Arsenal, didn't they?
At home.
Fun.
Yeah.
But he can't do that here.
No.
And I would be surprised. It depends on our fixture list. We can beat teams just by having our squad and being Tottenham Hotspur.
I was about to say, no doubt about it, that he is going to come in and be able to train with and get the best out of some already fantastic players in a way that he probably hasn't had to in the past.
And I think an interesting question, you mentioned Flecken. Vicario will be our starting keeper. But it is definitely interesting to look at that, because Flecken and Raya, he uses the goalkeepers a lot for short passing options. And those were probably 2 of the best ball-playing goalkeepers in world football.
Well, I reckon we might have
Kinski?
some. Absolutely, he's
Kinski
fantastic.
moving forward if he's here for a while.
You've brought us on nicely, because Adam, I wanted to ask you, seeing as it is the summer, and I must say that we actually ended the season by saying we wouldn't probably be back over the summer. We were taking a break unless something happened. Well, something has happened, so we just stuck with us for a couple of episodes longer. And while it is the summer, I know everyone likes to talk about transfers. We said we weren't going to come on for 6 weeks over the summer and just talk about transfers. But seeing as we're here, it would be remiss of us not to. What do we reckon? Is he going to bring Brian Mbeumo with him?
That's an interesting one. Financially, I don't see how that makes sense for Spurs.
You don't?
It seems like a lot of money, particularly if
player,
Man United. It's a great player, but if Man United are offering 70 million and £250,000 a week for 5 years, that doesn't strike me as a profile of deal that Tottenham usually do.
No, definitely not.
I don't think we need it for a right wing player.
I agree.
Even though, hey, if we could get in Mbeumo, fine. I like him.
But there's
I agree with you.
The romantic in me suggests that he could come to Tottenham for less because of Frank, or is that just too idealistic?
Who knows?
Maybe. I would doubt it. But
Do you think?
hopefully. The annoying
Okay,
thing
so what,
is that I think we're in the same position as we were 12 months ago, where we need a centre-half, centre midfielder and a winger. And it's really frustrating that basically none of that got addressed last summer with proper experienced players. There's a lot of work that we need to do. I'm
Sepp
pretty
Vandenberg,
high.
Mikael Damsgaard,
Exactly. Ben Mee.
Ben Mee.
I'm quite high on the level of the squad, and I think we need to raise it as opposed to completely knock it down and start again. I think there's more than enough there. Like I've said on the show before, that every player in the squad has had 10 or more games where you looked at them and thought, that is a great player. But for me, we need more. And thankfully, it's a summer window where there's no European tournament or a World Cup. I mean, you've got the Club World Cup, but no one really cares. But so hopefully,
one for you, Johnny.
Hopefully, there's a time where everyone can knuckle down and sort of they've got an uninterrupted summer to do some work. But I'll have to apologise for not having too much faith in the Spurs hierarchy getting a summer right, because once Bert, twice shy, 20 times. I don't know what that would be on the list, unfortunately.
Well, funnily enough, even in silly season, we've been linked with a lot of players already. Johnny's got a spreadsheet going. I can't remember any of the names off the top of my head now.
Definitely
in defence.
We've been linked with Mark Gahey. We've been linked with.
We should bring it up, really, shouldn't we?
Yeah, we've been linked with Evan and Dika in the last day or so. Jared Branthwaite's been mentioned. Bisek from Inter, who I really like if Romero goes. We still haven't confirmed Tell. I think that will happen. I really like the idea of signing Tell, and I think Sonny could have a little bit of resurgence under Frank, because if you look at Brentford's front three in Schade, Visser and Burmo, they are all very striker-type players. Well, obviously Visser's a striker, but the other two, as wingers, they're definitely more goals over creation. We've had that with Ange, with Solanke, Johnson and Son starting, and let's be real, not worked. Not really played to Sonny's strength, played to Brennan's strength for arriving late, but, someone saying Tell isn't good enough. I think it's crazy. I think personally,
I don't think we've seen enough to be able to know, personally.
Almost every game, back end of last season, he was almost creating a big chance a game, and he was the only guy consistently getting that ball from the wide position with a pass into the box. I think if we can lower the price, I think great. I think we should sign him. Really like him. If we don't, fine. Just got to reinvest somewhere else. I think we'll look for a deep midfielder. Yeah, especially with the likelihood of Basuma going. I think we will need that, and maybe someone that can cover for Maddison. I know we have Kulusevski who can play centrally. You never know. We might see him back out wide. His versatility is really good. He's a high level versatile player, not like just someone who fills in holes. But yeah, I think we need some creative cover. When Maddison was out the squad, we definitely struggled.
This is why,
and a
personally,
backup left back.
Yes, absolutely. We need another fullback. This is why I'm not sure I totally agree about the right-sided player, because if Kulusevski's almost covered for two positions. So if Maddison gets injured, then Kulusevski's playing 10. Who's our backup right winger? And if Johnson gets injured, Kulusevski's playing right wing. And who's our backup number 10? So if you signed a right-sided player, then Kulusevski is covering 10, but he's also covering right wing, but there's another cover there, if you see what I mean. So I actually think we might be one short.
We're definitely one short. The question is, are we one or two short, I would say.
No, I'm talking about a right-sided player or a 10. I think we're still short of either a right-sided plaer or a 10, because you've got Kulusevski covering two positions. I think we should sign
both, to be honest.
Right, well, there you go.
I think ultimately, if you're going to be, you're either seriously or not, right? And now is a summer where they've got the bonus of being in the Champions League. That can also be a potential hindrance with the number of high-quality games you need. And at some point, as a club, they need to start taking it seriously and build a proper squad for what they're claiming they want to compete in. I heard someone on the radio this morning saying, I don't know what Tottenham want to be. And it was an interesting, it sounds like a soundbite, but it was interesting because it's a good one. We won a trophy, sat the manager. Most of us understand it. We've had a series of coming fourth, third, second, also not been that thrilled with it. Like, what do we want to be, or what do they want us to be as a club? Yeah. It's quite an interesting discussion point. Maybe not for, as you come into the end of the hour of a podcast, but it's something that gave me pause for thought when I heard it.
You need Ollie Spiro on, friend of the show, because he'll
I
keep
think
you very busy
in terms
with
of
that.
as a football team, I think we can all say that all we've ever wanted was to be a team that competes for trophies and at the top end of the table with an entertaining brand of football. In terms of what the ownership want, I think they want a high position in the league, and I do think they want trophies because both of those things equate to money and how much the club is worth. I think anyone that says the ownership don't want to win I think it's a silly statement. However, I think that yes, there's never been many risks taken to try and make that happen. I don't think it means they don't want to. I just think that they want to be cautious about it. I think Frank's coming into a setup that has got better with Langer and that team. I think Paratici coming back in is fine. I think as long as he works with the modern data side of scouting that we have. He's been working for us the whole time anyway, let's be real. He's never stopped. He's been a consultant forever. He's been seen umpteen times.
You can spot those headphones a mile off,
Yeah,
can't
exactly. The wired headphones, no one else is using those in 2025. And in terms of transfers, I think we have to be honest with ourselves. We're not going to buy 4 players that walk into the starting 11 because we do have a strong starting 11. I think if Romero goes, which might be likely...
Well, Andy on the comments has just asked the question, does Frank keep Romero? It's an interesting question.
I think we could force him to stay for 1 more year. He's got 2 years left. Are we bothered? And if he really wants to go, that means a transfer fee next summer, unless we want to maximise his value. He's one of the best centre-backs in the world. But if we can get someone that is, I don't know, only 20% worse than Romero, but available 70% more than Romero.
Well, I personally think we might already have that in Danso, to be honest. But
I don't know. I'd be a bit nervous.
He's
going
a calm head
with Danso in as first choice, but I think he's a good player, great option, and will work if we ever want to switch to a back 3.
But the problem is to sign a Romero replacement, literally to walk straight in, is going to cost
similar to what you sell him, probably.
Yeah,
but that's probably what you got to. I think that's
absolutely.
What
but will they do that? That's
what do they want to be?
How much did Romero cost? 40?
I think we will
40,
reinvest
50.
what we get from Romero for a centre back, maybe more, maybe less, depending on the player we get. We do spend the money we tend to make from transfers. So anyone say we don't spend money is not true.
No, of course it's not true.
But it would be nice. I'm concerned about Liverpool's transfer dealings with Wirtz, Kirkes. They want Ekatike. They bought Frimpong. That's some really crazy transfers. 130 million or whatever that Wirtz is going to cost. And
they didn't spend anything last summer, did they?
They didn't, and they are.
And they've also just won that. They're a pull.
They're the club you want to be.
Absolutely,
really, the way they work. Then City buying Ryan Cherky, Ait Nori.
There's no one left.
Someone else.
Rangers,
who's a great player. And then even United getting Cunha, maybe Mbeumo, who I don't really think they need, but that's another podcast, another question. I think we really need to compete. There's been 2 links to Xavi Simons, and I am pilled. I would love that. I think he covers that 10 and wing spot. I think he's in that Wirtz, Cherky, young number 10 maverick role. I'd really, really like that. Or, hey, if we can't get someone like him, Eze would be a great move. We've been linked with him for years.
He'd hardly be second best in that list.
Hey, you could look at Madison Eze, I don't know who should start. And that's the problem we need. And then number 6, the squad has a really good makeup. And if we can just get a few in, break the bank a little bit, I just feel like we can do something in the next couple of years. I'm not going into the season expecting much.
Yeah.
But it would be a process. And, 2 years in, who knows?
Do you think if the manager is Frank, that need for a dedicated number 6 becomes slightly less important because he will likely play with 2 guys sitting there, which when we did it in Europe, we looked like so much more of a solid outfit as opposed to saying
play with 2 guys.
We need 1 guy to basically be the firefighter and ball progressor for 90
break the
minutes.
Bank laughing faces is probably fair. And we're not going to break the bank for sure.
Break anyone's bank.
I don't know where the bank is.
I think you're right. We have under Ange asked a ridiculous amount from our number 6. The amount of ground they'd have to cover was absolutely crazy, and it only got worse when we stopped inverting the fullbacks because they were able to cover some of those spots in midfield. But either way, no matter what we did, we left massive gaps in the wide position. It was a mess. But yeah, I think you're exactly right. You can kind of spread the profile amongst 2 players. You can have more creative option, more defensive option, but you're not asking for an absolute world-beating destroyer who actually is also Xavi when he passes the ball, which there's only very few players in the world.
There was only one of him.
One of them might be going to Real Madrid, who was meant to go to Arsenal, which is really funny. Zubimendi. There's Rodri and the guy I can't remember his name, the guy they signed in January to cover that at City.
Gonzalez.
Well, Gravenberch has become that sort of as well, hasn't he?
There. I think a lot of people have talked about Douglas Luiz would be a good
Yeah,
good
potentially.
midfield signing. A bit of experience, played at the
I think
highest
Villa are a
level.
club to look at because they're going to need to get rid of some of their
He's at
players.
Juventus now, but yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Yes, you remind me. Yeah,
But
but,
no, I think
Villa
you're
are
right.
also a club to look at.
Konza?
Potentially. I mean,
like
Rodgers, there's been talk of maybe him moving on somewhere. Let's read out a couple of tweets before we get the hell out of here. Jorge Pena, the problem is not only getting new players and adding to the squad, it's making room in the Champions League squad. Yes, that is true. So
I think
this
we
is
will sign players and not give them Champions League spot. I think
perhaps,
that
but this
we
is
will
what
leave
people
players out.
get confused with when it's you have to, what's the word? You have to sell to buy. Sometimes it's not necessarily for money's purposes, it's for squad space purposes. Then there's two guys, I can't read these names. Cap and Pants. Romero passing will be hard to replace. Yes, agree.
absolutely.
Who's going to read this one? Gigantic Cycling Mouth. Okay, good name there. I don't think either of our backup options for CB are good enough. Yeah, I think that's fair. Polestar Dragson's underrated.
About
Okay.
backup
Dragson's
players,
awful.
The thing I asked about backup players is if they had to play 10 league games in a row, which included Arsenal and Chelsea away, would you be comfortable with that player?
Yeah.
And
It's rarely yes.
particularly at Spurs.
Paul McWilliam,
I'd be
break
more
the bank.
comfortable with Danso in than Gray,
Yeah.
than Gray and
I really like
Dragic
Danso. I think
and-
you're giving him. I think
No,
he.
I like
I
him
think.
as well.
I
I
think.
just don't think he's a starting player.
I think we could do worse. I think if Romero went, he would be the starter at this point.
I mean, right now, yeah.
Yeah.
I think we'd sign a first choice centre back personally, but who knows?
Vuskovic will be a monster in 2 years. Rowan K. Yes, he is potentially. Forgot about him.
He's quite slow on the turn at the minute, but
Yeah.
obviously he's super
big lad.
young. But his passing range is really good. Obviously, he's got an absolute strike on him, which is really random. Play him up front. But yeah, he's got a lot of developing to do, but looks a real talent. If he can speed up the swiveling of the hips,
Then
we
he's
might
good.
have and his pace. He spoke about what Spurs have asked him to work on in a couple of interviews, and I think he said, my speed and such is something. So if he can develop there, then wow! That even us getting him, I think the club was shocked because he was being looked at by everyone.
He was much vaunted. Gary Beck's under Frank Gray will play part of a double pivot, which is what you guys are saying. I think that's a good shout.
I'd like to see it.
Andy, do we know if Kulusevski's out for a long time? Yes, he is, isn't he?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
Look like it. And lastly, P. Hutch. If Frank does come in, I'm excited to see what he does with young players. Divine, Donnelly, Vuskovic, etc. Yes, he. That's what I was saying earlier. But even the ones, the ones that need to kick on, because it's all very well with the likes of Bergvall, it's continuity, and they need somebody to come in and carry that on.
Yeah, I thought Divine in last pre-season looked as good and ready as your Bergvall and your Gray and other players in the squad. I do think he'll probably end up getting sold, personally. I don't know where he gets in. Donnelly will probably go. I reckon he goes to West Brom with Mason. He's been linked with West Brom a couple of times before the Mason managerial change. I think that'd be really nice. He's going to play. Straight up, he's going to play. And hopefully Donnelly can develop to be a player that does play for us. He is, again, it's a physicality thing. So technically great, but his physicality has been a problem. But he has developed that a lot of Leyton Orient, pressing, etc. But yeah, because he looked quite slow. Vuskovic, very young. I think he's only just turning 18.
Something
we'll
like
see. But hey, we had Scarlett, Ajayi, and Moore all score in a Europa League game. That was one of my favourite parts of last season.
And we never saw them again.
We never saw them again.
was the
That
last.
was so good. Also, I was in the stadium and watching Mikey Moore after seeing the other two score.
Yeah.
Absolutely raging because he wanted to score as well. Was brilliant. I think hopefully with Frank we see these guys get a bit of a chance. But we're in the Premier League and the Champions League. Those options are going to be
Carabao.
like tough. Yeah, that's about it. So,
Even then, you go in at the third round stage
Yeah,
where there's
yeah,
only
it's
32 teams. It's tricky.
yeah, and Moore's the big one. Do we Foden him? Keep him around, he gets a few minutes here and there, and then everyone's there going, why is he not playing? He's clearly good. Or do we loan him? Personally, I think maybe a loan would be fine for him. I don't think he's quite ready. Although I think he's performed pretty well. I think he has struggled with the physicality of the league. The game against Palace, he really struggled.
But no one played well in that game.
No, they didn't. But
I think Frank could be a
there's
good
hell
manager
of a
for some of the
player
young
there,
players.
And I think it could be a good time for the academy. We've got a brilliant academy.
Adam, final thought. Yeah, you optimistic?
I'm not even thinking about. We won the Europa League 2 weeks ago.
Absolutely.
The view from the top of this mountain. I mean, the sky is so blue, the grass is so green. Like, I'm having a great time.
Yeah.
Like, we achieved everything we were desperate to achieve, And I apologise if I'm not going to let a managerial brouhaha dampen any spirits.
No,
like,
good.
It's exactly the way to
I'm
be.
going to keep enjoying this for as long as I possibly can.
Keep this up. Johnny will never have you on again.
That's also true. I've
Positivity.
signed my own P45 for the
Death
pod
warrant,
there, haven't I?
exactly. Guys, thank you very much. I think that's just about all we've got time for. Obviously, fantastic to have Jez on a bit earlier. Plans for the summer? Because I will say we will be back when the manager gets announced. But in the meantime, what are we giving away? We are giving away it was a bit unclear as to exactly what it was, but it is
Because all of us-
Don't know how yet, but you will need to be.
We're giving away Mickey van der Ven.
we're giving away Mickey van
So
der
you
Ven.
have to be a subscriber.
You have
and
to be a
you get him.
subscriber, as I mentioned earlier. Go on to a YouTube member, an echoofglory.com, or the YouTube page. But the YouTube page has to be on a laptop or a MacBook or a PC, so not your tablet or phone. And subscribe, join an Echo of Glory, and you will be in the prize draw for some fantastic Mickey van der Ven based merchandise.
It's a signed shirt.
We can say it. It's a signed shirt and a medal. So if you want to get involved on
Replica
that,
medal, just
get
to be
on
clear.
an echoofglory.com. As I said, we will be back when the new manager is announced. We don't know when that is. Guys, thank you very much.
Thank you very
Thanks
much.
for having
Thank
us.
you. We will see you all soon. And up the Spurs.